Another edition here of Getting There with Goss, where we talk about the career journeys of media members, coaches, athletes, business owners, and more from upstate New York. Adirondack Thunder fans know this guy. Evan Pivnick joins us. And Evan, for those who aren't familiar with you, let's go back to a younger version of you, 6, 7, 8 years old. Where'd you grow up? What'd you want to be as a kid? Was it your same dream job you wanted when you were 18 years old?
It's funny enough. I've always wanted to be a sports broadcaster since I was really young. Ever since I figured out how to lower the volume on video games so I could broadcast to myself pretty much. So ever since I was 6, 7, 8, right around that age that you mentioned, Gaz, is exactly where I knew I wanted to do. It was just a matter of getting there, and well, that's the name of the podcast. So I guess it worked out pretty well. But yeah, I grew up on Long Island, New York. Was very fortunate to grow up there. So many sports teams, so many great broadcasters, and just an area where everything was kind of happening. So I was able to get a lot of great opportunities and take in a lot of really cool events and listen to some very inspirational people.
So you mentioned you grew up on Long Island there. When you're in high school, you've eventually got to make that decision of where you're going to go to college next. What college, if at all, did you attend one, and why did you select that school?
I went to Bowling Green State University in Northwest Ohio. It's funny enough, I actually went to Nassau Community College for a year. My grades were not good enough in high school to really get in anywhere, but I always knew what I wanted to do. So I always got involved in the broadcasting side of things, and I did a lot of the extracurricular stuff to help me get into Bowling Green. But I did the year at Nassau Community College, which was great for me. Got my grades up. Kind of got the college lifestyle a little bit, or kind of how everything kind of plans out with schedule and stuff like that. And I also worked at the radio station there, which I became the sports director within 3 months, I believe it was. And I was a co-host of a show on every Tuesday night. It was just a great experience for me. And then I was looking at schools where I could, they had a very good broadcasting program. They had sports, which is obviously very important to me, and good sports too, like a Division I school. Syracuse is one of the schools that everyone mentions, Ithaca, but there's something about Bowling Green when I went and visited. It felt like home, which was really cool. And right away I would get an opportunity to broadcast games, which was something that was very important to me. I know a lot of the big schools, and a lot of great people came out of those big schools like Syracuse and Ithaca. But I know for Syracuse, a lot of the students don't get a chance to broadcast until their junior or senior year. But as a freshman in college at Bowling Green, I was able to get in right away and get some great experience. And at the end of the day, it's all about you get better by the amount of games that you do. And Bowling Green put me in a great situation to succeed. And I just worked hard and took advantage of the opportunities. And I wouldn't have those opportunities without going to BG.
You were the first Bowling Green alumni to join the podcast, so go Falcons, right? Shout out to them and all the big things. They had a big upset this past season, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. You get on the air basically your first year, your freshman year, eligibility-wise, we'll call it freshman year, although you mentioned the community college year for that 1 year. Take us through the first time you're on the air, the first play-by-play opportunity you get, and describe how it had gone for you in that first one.
So funny enough, in college, my first opportunity on the air, I was actually I did a football game. I was the sideline reporter for a football game, which the technology we had was not very good. I was down on the sidelines with the little terrestrial radio in my ear and a microphone, a wireless mic that didn't really connect half the time, nor could I really hear when they were throwing it down to me. And I think I talked about the weather for 75% of the time. But excuse me. And my first actual hockey broadcast, my very good friend, still to this day, Kevin Myers, was the broadcaster when I got to Bowling Green. And I got to know him very well that first summer and that first year. And I actually did color for him. It was late October at Ohio State. So it's like a big time. You're going into a big time rink in the big press box. And I was sick that day. But I know, looking at things now and doing things when you're sick, that's stay home and do whatever. Now I was I have a game to broadcast tonight. I think I popped Tylenol in the air. I was, whatever, cough drops. I just felt miserable. But we got through it, and we still talk about it a lot to this day, Kevin and myself. And so that was my first real chance on the air. And then Kevin graduated after that year, and then I got the job to be the full-time hockey play-by-play broadcaster. And you think you know everything going into that. And so my first broadcast would have been 2014, so October of 2014 for Bowling Green. And I think I listened back a couple years ago to that first broadcast. And I don't think I lasted a minute. I couldn't listen to it. It was so bad. And but like that back then, you're thinking, oh, this is great. Like, I'm right where I want to be. I'm getting, like, I was getting great experience, but at the same time, I was listening to it. I was like, they hired me. Like, people like enjoyed listening to me. But it's that was my first play-by-play, first game in college. But I did do a few play-by-play, games when I was in high school. I got some pretty good experience. MSG Varsity was the big station down in the tri-state area, like Connecticut, New Jersey, Long Island. And they had some students do some games, and I was lucky enough to be one of the students. So that was kind of like the first time I was on the air, but I was pretty nervous for that Bowling Green game. And 3 years later, I graduated, and here I am. So
wait a second. We got to go back here for a second. I was digging on you. I'm doing my research. I did not find this MSG Varsity situation. So I think for some people in upstate New York, they may not understand the magnitude of what you just said there. For those who may not understand it, kind of explain a little bit what the MSG Varsity is, and how were you not more nervous for that broadcast in high school than you were for the college one?
So MSG Varsity, for what it is, so everyone's kind of familiar with the MSG networks. They do, the Knicks, Rangers, Islanders, Devils, Sabres. So in New York State and the tri-state regions, they had a high school branch of it called MSG Varsity, which is now, I think, News 12 Varsity it's called. And we had a broadcasting class in high school. We were lucky enough to have it. I don't know how we were picked for it, whatever it was. It was an elective class where we basically just made content for their website. That's basically all. It was just like unpaid, like, oh, let's get students to make some content for us so we don't have to do it. So I was like, okay. So, I took advantage of that. And my friend Tom Marr and I wanted to broadcast an Oceanside. I went to Oceanside High School. We wanted to broadcast an Oceanside high school hockey game at Long Beach Arena. And they kept telling us no. So we're like, okay, we'll try to do it ourselves. And then after we got because we wanted to go through MSG Varsity to get the approval for the broadcast of the arena and all that stuff. And they just wouldn't do it for us for some reason. So Tom and I ended up doing it ourselves. I think we just stopped by there and asked, like, hey, can we broadcast a game? Can we set up? And they're like, yeah, sure. And then once MSG Varsity found out that we did all the legwork for it, they're like, oh, sure, send us all your stuff. Like, when you're done, we'll actually send a camera guy there, send some equipment for you guys so you can broadcast the game. So we said, okay. So we did it for TV. We did like the open. I was, cold and pale, and I still had a thicker Long Island accent. And it was a rough broadcast, but I guess they thought it was good. So they ended up actually telling us, like 2 weeks later, they said, hey, we're going to put it on TV in its entirety. Like, oh, okay. So we became the first student-produced broadcast to be aired on MSG Varsity in its entirety. Which was cool. I ended up winning the MSG Varsity V Award for that.
Hey,
it's done by the same people who do the Emmys in New York State, which is cool. That was a cool honor to get there. And that kind of started everything for me. And then they had me do a lacrosse game later that year, which didn't go as well. I just used hockey terminology for it. I don't know lacrosse that well, but they asked me to do it, and I'm like, it's an opportunity, especially on camera. So I did it, and it was a lot of fun. And MSG, I forgot when MSG Varsity became News 12 Varsity, but I was already long out of Long Island since then.
Well, you added something right there that I think is really interesting, especially for aspiring broadcasters. You touched on how hockey can offer its own challenges, especially crossing over sports. We have that similarity. I would call myself a casual hockey fan, but I made my on-air broadcasting debut calling a hockey game at the Playland Ice Casino down in Rye, New York, a little bit further north of you guys in Long Island in Manhattanville. But something as simple as here comes the ball versus the puck. Kind of take us through that a little bit for you of that challenge of doing hockey games. And some would say arguably the most difficult, relatively speaking, sport to broadcast is hockey.
So it's funny when people tell me, oh, it's such a hard, sport to broadcast. It is, but at the same time, there is so much going on during play that you can pull stuff from. I think the hardest sport to broadcast, it's either golf or baseball, because you have so much time to fill where you just talk about whatever for 3.5, 4 hours. Meanwhile, hockey, it's like I have stuff written down that I don't even get to because there's so much action going on where the narrative changes 2 minutes into the game. But yeah, the hardest thing about it, I think, is just learning the players. And once you have that down, I think everything else comes not easily, but a little bit, better for a prepared broadcaster. Once you get the players down and you get the pace of play a little bit, and it's all about, for broadcasting, it's about your style, and because you listen to some radio broadcasters, especially in the NHL, a lot of the radio guys, they stay about a couple of seconds maybe behind the play. John Weideman, who does the Chicago Blackhawks, if you were to watch a Blackhawks game with John Weideman's audio at the same time, it wouldn't match up because he stays behind the play so he doesn't get too ahead of it, so he can describe it a little bit better, which is something that I didn't do when I first started. I was like too on top of the play where I'd like trip over my words all the time because, it would deflect off someone's stick and then it would bounce to the corner and then there's 3 other things going on. And I would try to get that all in there. And then I was like, okay, I can't do this. I'm tiring myself out. I have no, cadence to my broadcasts. And once I figured that out, I think it's all about cadence too, because again, you don't want to get too ahead of yourself. And as long as you're prepared, you can get through it.
You mentioned that difference too between the air filling for a baseball game and the tight squeeze almost for your breath for a hockey game. Am I right? Is there a connection with your family and the Albany-Colonie Yankees from back in the day in the Capital Region?
Yes, you are correct. My dad was the broadcaster for the Albany-Colonie Yankees and then the A's. So that's when they changed teams. So I think it was 83 to 85. He was the broadcaster for them. Did their PR as well. So it's funny enough, I've always kind of been familiar with the Capital Region since I was very, very young, obviously before I was born. And my dad attended games at the, back then it was Glens Falls Civic Center. He went to the Adirondack Red Wings games and he talked about all the great broadcaster they had there. So it's funny enough, I think when I got the job here with Adirondack in 2017, he was probably, I was excited, but I think he was a little more excited than I was just because, I got to go back to a region that he thought very fondly of and really enjoys the area and the whole history of hockey in Glens Falls.
Yeah, let's talk about how that job happens. This is always one of the awkward parts of interviews because you're going to have to talk about your current employer. So I always tell people, say as much or as little as you want about where you're working right now. But if my timeline adds up here, the exit of Bowling Green is 2017 and the Adirondack Thunder is right there as well. So post-graduation, take us through how the Thunder opportunity happened, the interview process, all that stuff.
So it was very, very quick, very, very, not very, very late, but it was late. So I had plans to be an intern for the Rockford Ice Hogs in the AHL. Bob Mills was the broadcaster there. He was another Bowling Green guy, so I had the connection there. He hired me as his broadcast intern. I was going to start, I think, August 28th, I believe it was, or whatever the Monday was, like right before Labor Day weekend. I remember this. So I'm getting all my stuff together to basically move to Chicago, right outside Chicago. And I noticed that the job opened for the Adirondack Thunder in the ECHL. So I said, okay, I'll apply for it. I applied, I interviewed for it. And I think I was leaving to go to Chicago on Friday. And I interviewed in person in Glens Falls on Wednesday. And I interviewed with my current boss, Jeff Mead, team president for the Thunder, and Zach Dooley, who was a communications guy back then. And now he works for the Los Angeles Kings doing content for them. So I interviewed with them. I thought I was awful. Like I was sweating. I was wearing a suit. It was summer. It was terrible. Like I thought it was awful. Whatever. So it comes back and I end up, they say, okay, we're going to let you know by Friday. So it was okay. And I didn't say anything that, I was going to go to Chicago or I was going to go work for Rockford. Like, so, cause I want a pro job. I'm not going to, give them any excuses not to hire me. So I end up going to Chicago. I didn't hear from them on Friday. I was driving with my dad. We put everything in my car. We're driving. I stopped in Bowling Green Friday night to go see some friends. It was like the first weekend of the year. And, the next day I stopped and saw my friend Kevin for lunch in Chicago. And as I was texting my soon would have been roommate that we were going, to get our apartment keys, I got the call that I was going to Glens Falls for the job. So we just turned around.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I've heard some insane stories, and I don't know if this ranks of you are in the wrong city, leaving, so less confident you're not going to get this, that you're about to grab. I mean, this is the moment when you're on the phone. I hope it's still excitement, because it's probably so much stress of my whole life just changed with one phone call. I hope the excitement was still there and the stress was able to be tempered a bit.
It was, because I called Bob Mills right away, who's going to be my boss. And it's funny because I think we're supposed to live with 2 other people, like all the interns. They took care of your housing in Rockford because, you aren't really working for any money, just experience, which was fine. So the other intern dropped out the day before for a real job, not a real, a paying job. And I was literally just texting the other kid. We were talking about like our cable, like what cable we're going to get or something like that. And then I called Bob. I was like, hey, I'm in Rockford right now, or in Chicago at a gas station right off the highway. I got a job in the ECHL, and I hate to do this to you because, it's 2 days before I'm supposed to start. It was like Saturday. I'm supposed to like work Monday. And he's like, dude, don't even worry about it. Go take the job. Don't even worry about us. He was just so awesome. That made me feel, at ease, because it was just, driving whatever hundreds of miles over the weekend. It made it easier just to turn around and get back to Long Island, where everything sat in my car for another week until I moved out to Glens Falls.
So here we are. As wild as that story is, you are now the broadcaster for the Adirondack Thunder. You're stepping behind the mic. You're a professional hockey broadcaster. As much as I'd like to talk about the first game for the Thunder, I think it's important to add some context here of the Thunder fan base, because you've seen it now for multiple games. There is a different feel and atmosphere. It's exciting. There is true energy when it comes to the Adirondack Thunder in Glens Falls.
It really is. It's a really special place. I've been to a lot of places around the ECHL. I broadcast a lot of college hockey games back when I was at Bowling Green, and the fan base here is more similar to a college hockey atmosphere where people care a lot. And some, I'm going to say most ECHL cities don't have that. The fan base that really just every single game, the fans know exactly what's going on, which player is who. They know the narrative of the season, and they're diehard fans. And that's what makes it so special. And they're loud, and they get involved. They have the chants. They have the thunderclap before the third period. It's just a really cool environment, a great place to see a hockey game. Cool Insuring Arena is awesome. It's such a unique building, and it's so well known around from people in hockey. Every time I tell someone, I'm working with the Adirondack Thunder, like, oh, you broadcasted the old Civic Center? I was like, yep. Yeah. Oh, that place is awesome. Like, it really is. And even if we have 1,500 on a Tuesday night or 5,000 on a Saturday night, that place is loud, it's lively, and it's a great get together for the community in Glens Falls and the surrounding areas, because it's the middle of winter. You either basically go skiing, go snow tubing, or catch an Adirondack Thunder hockey game, have dinner before, dinner after, go to the bar, get some drinks. But it's kind of like where everyone goes on the weekend. So it makes it a really special place. And you can tell just walking around the building, just the excitement that people have, how into it everyone is. It's a gathering, and it's really cool.
Yeah, it really is. Now, for a broadcaster like you, early, but building your career throughout, obstacles come along the way, and I hope we're taping this in February 2022. Hopefully, you're the last guest I have to ask about with COVID, but COVID pauses your career, but via social media, you were still able to connect with people and had a lot of success in your career without games happening. For those who might have missed you on social media, plug the Twitter so they can go back and watch the videos and explain what happened to you during this COVID time with these videos.
So our season shut down our last game was March 10th of 2020. And it happened very, very quickly, as everyone knows, right when the shutdown happened, we put out a press release saying our season's suspended. And then 2 days later, our season was canceled. And then, okay, let's look forward to next year. And then things kind of weren't looking up after the first month. So we all got furloughed, which, it's a reality. It's what happened, and it sucked. And for me, I'm a very creative person, and I don't like to sit around and do nothing. So I just got bored one day and I was watching all the traffic going around downtown, and I just decided just to do like a play-by-play of it. And I did it on Snapchat, I think, for like a few of my buddies in our group chat. And I ended up just saving it because you can just save a Snapchat sometimes, or whatever it is. And I guess my friends like liked it, and I just decided, I don't know what made me, because I would never post something like that. It's like kind of just like me trying to be funny with my friends, sort of a thing. And for some reason, I put it on Instagram and Twitter at Evan Pivnick ADK on Twitter and Evan Pivnick on Instagram. There's the plug for you.
Nice.
And I just put it out there, and people liked it. And I was like, oh, so this is not just me being a complete idiot. So I did that, and then I did it for like a few days, and my friends thought it was funny. I was getting messages on Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that, like, oh, keep doing this. This is making my day, because people, it was right at the end of March and early April, so no one was doing anything. It was like people were just on their phones all day waiting for the quarantine to end, which didn't for the next year and a half. But yeah, and then I ended up doing just random things around the house. I would light candles, I would watch TV shows, and then I did one for Friends, the scene where Ross gets married to Emily, but says, I take the Rachel. And I made that like a dramatic, like, sports moment for some reason. I don't know what I did. And then I posted it on Instagram, and I saw just random. And then once that, no, so I did the Titanic one day, Friends the next day. Titanic one, I got a follow from KFC from Barstool on Instagram. And then the next morning, I see this article written about what I've been doing on Barstool Sports. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I don't know what people are talking about me. And then, at that point you have to keep going, right? Because you have, I was getting all these followers on Instagram. I was like, so I have to do something. So I did the Friends one the next day. And then I was just looking down at my phone, and I saw that Jimmy Kimmel followed me on Instagram. And I was like, what is this? Then I saw a message from the producer there, and they wanted to use my video on their show that night. So they did, and Jimmy Kimmel talked about it and showed it on the show, and it was cool. It was just something like so stupid that I thought would, just be for friends, ends up, making people happy. So I guess there's a couple articles written about it. So I was happy, that people were entertained by it in such a tough time. And then, as people do on the internet, it goes around for a little bit, and then no one cares anymore. So yeah, it's fine. I was running out of ideas anyway, but it was a really cool experience to do that, especially right after getting furloughed and being a little down. And for myself, just knowing that the creativity was still there, and I still had the ability to entertain people, which is cool.
On our video side and on our audio side, we're going to try to play this Jimmy Kimmel cut for you right now from it. Now, there's a chance that we get blocked and don't get to use it. They tell us no. So there's going to be a quick little pause here. Hopefully you watch the video. And if not, we're back. Maybe you didn't get to see the video. I'll see if we got cleared for the use that rights or not.
You didn't see it at all.
Yeah, exactly. Spoiler alert, also on your Twitter page, the greatest hockey broadcaster of all time, Doc Emrick, right there in the old banner photo. Take us through that story of how that interaction happened.
So Doc Emrick went to Bowling Green to get his doctorate. That's why he's called Doc. He graduated in 1975. And so he's also one of those guys, like, that's one of the reasons I went to Bowling Green. You see, like, broadcasters who went there. And, you look at guys, Steve Mears is the broadcaster for the Pittsburgh Penguins on TV. And there's a ton of just alums who have gone on to work in pro sports. And Mike Emrick's always the top one on the list. So if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me, I guess. So my senior year was the 50th anniversary of the ice arena at Bowling Green State University, usually first called the BGSU Ice Arena, then called the Slater Family Ice Arena. And, they were going to have this big ordeal where everyone comes back, and they're going to have this ceremony and stuff like that. Cause a lot of people have come through Bowling Green in the hockey program and have gone to play pro hockey, have coached pro hockey, worked in pro hockey. So it's kind of a celebration of the arena and the program. And the plan was, well, it ended up being that I would broadcast the game. I had special guests on during the game, and the special guest was that Mike Emrick was going to come back and call the game with me. At that point, it was funny enough because I got a text from Jason Knable, who is the assistant athletic director of communications for Bowling Green. He now works for Elon University. And he texted me, "Hey, can you please meet me in my office at 2 p.m. today?" Which is like never a text you want to get from your boss who you talk with a lot, but not like in person. So I was like, oh, what did I do? Like, so I go to his office and he's like, sit down. I'm like, oh no. So I sit down and he's like, oh, for the 50th anniversary game, we want to do. So at that point I was like, okay, cool. I'm not getting fired yet. And we want to, have special guests come back and we want to have this guy call the game with you. And he rotates his monitor around and it's a photo of Mike Emrick. And for some reason, my response was like, Jason, how long have you had that on your desktop for? And he's like, I have like 3 GoPros here to try to catch your reaction to this. I was like, oh, you want me to do it again? Like, that was my initial reaction. Like, how long do you have that on your desktop? So I ruined his GoPro surprise video. So I apologize, Jason Knable, for doing that. But that's how I found out about that. And then I got it. So that game was, funny enough, it was on my birthday in 2017. It was February 11th. So we did, it was probably January 16th or something, right on that time. I got a random text from a Michigan number saying, Evan, Mike Emrick here. Just want to go over pronunciations for the game coming up. And I was like, this is not a real text message I'm getting.
This is fake. This is a catfish, right?
Michigan number 2. And like a lot of people from Bowling Green I know in the athletic department are from Michigan. So I like try to backtrack the number and I couldn't find anything. He's like, do you have time to talk today around 2 p.m.? I was like, yeah, I have time. You call me. You called me, Mike Emrick. Not even like, oh, yeah, I'll call you. Because I thought it was fake. Yeah. And then waiting at 2 o'clock, he calls me. I'm like, hey, how's this? Hello. And it's just Mike Emrick on the phone. I'm like, oh, my God. And he wanted to talk about pronunciations for a college hockey game that he took a weekend off from NHL on NBC to do. It's like a non-conference college hockey game. Like, I haven't even looked at I haven't even thought about the game. It's a month away. And he's calling me. We talked on the phone for like 45 minutes, just about, whatever. So he was awesome. Everything that everyone ever says about him, it's all true. He's the nicest human. He's helped me out quite a bit in my career so far. And he's just awesome. And doing that game with him was really cool. He did color for the first and third, and he did play-by-play for the second. And I just remember, it's like it's like playing on a line with Wayne Gretzky. It's what it's like. You look to your right and Mike Emrick standing there with the headset, and he's like the nicest person about it. So I was like, oh, Doc, do you want to do this? Do you want to how do you want to do this? He's like, do whatever you do. I'm here as your guest. I was like, that's not how this works. Yeah, so that's what he did, and he was awesome about it. And he started doing play-by-play in the second period, and I had to take my headset off because I was laughing. Because it's just like I was looking around like, this is just stupid.
This is going to pinch me.
Yeah.
All right, this stream's over, right?
He started because I introduced him for the second period. I was like, here to call the second period is Mike Doc Emrick. And then he'd be like, oh, he did I can't even do the voice, but like he just did that. And I was like, okay. So I just took my headset off for a couple of seconds, just had to get myself back together and then put it back on, and we were back rolling. But just to hear like the voice that's so iconic with every single moment in hockey history for the past 30 years. But he's doing it's funny enough, that's the only period in my career of calling Bowling Green hockey that I didn't do. So I guess I'll give it up, for a period for Mike Emrick.
Yeah, I think that's okay. Yeah. Now, when that happens, there's so many times in people's careers where if they say, you know what, that's it. Like, that's the last moment of my broadcast career. I'm good. That could have been that for you. Like, you know what? This is good. If I got nothing else, if I never get another job again, if this is how I have to go out and get fine. Like, I'm good. I'm good if this is the end right here, right
Absolutely.
now.
And plus, like, it's like my senior year. I'm done at Bowling Green in like a month with hockey. And, it was the perfect send off for me if that were it. Like, if I could never get another hockey job or a sports broadcasting job, I would have been like, all right, that's fine. I called the game with Mike Emrick, and I have that documented, and people know about it, and I have pictures that it happened. So that's cool. But luckily, he actually helped me quite a bit. It was funny enough because I emailed him when the Thunder job opened, and I said, "Do you know anyone who knows anyone who knows anyone?" And he said, "Let me see what I can do." And then he sent me a text like 5 minutes later. He said, "I just spoke with the team president. You'll be getting an interview," or something like that. It's like he called Jeff Mead, my boss, and just said like, "Oh, you should talk to Evan Pivnick," basically. And I was like, "You didn't have to do that. I just asked you if you knew anyone." He's like, "Oh yeah, I just looked up his number and called him." I was like, "Okay."
Like, the power of Doc right there for you.
Doc. And then and then my first year, at the end of we were in the playoffs my first year. I get back to my office. I think it was after lunch or something. It was the day of the game. I get a voicemail on my phone. It says on the thing, Michael Emrick. I was like, "What is this?" So I played it, and it was him wishing me good luck for the playoff game that night. I was like, "What?" So it's like little stuff like that. It's just like, what is going on here? But it's cool. Again, if it were to end after my seat that night in Bowling Green, I would have been fine with it.
It's just a wild story. And it's so exciting to find out what the future is going to continue to be with someone like that in your corner, helping with broadcast. And usually how we close this, we give advice for aspiring play-by-play broadcasters, whoever it is, media members, coaches, athletes. We like to give people that question of how do people get to where you are. But I feel like for you, it's so unique here because if you don't mind, I kind of want to combine both your advice and maybe the advice Doc has given you here along your path. So present that however you want, whether the advice you've received from him or a little combination of what you've received as well. To you would tell maybe a student right now at Bowling Green or a student at Albany, Siena, Union, wherever it might be, of how do they get to the spot where you are in your career right now?
Get as much experience as you can. And I don't mean that as, just volunteer every now and again. Volunteer for everything you can do, because the more games you do, the more comfortable you feel on the air. And that's pretty much with everything. Practice makes perfect, as they say, and it's as cliche as it is, it's true. I didn't realize when I was 7 years old, muting the NHL video games to do it myself, that was me broadcasting, and that would get me comfortable enough to where I would one day do it for a living. And just little stuff like that. I volunteered all the time when I was in school to do everything. When I was in high school, I did public address for basketball. I don't watch basketball a lot. I don't know a lot about basketball, but I learned enough where I could be the public address announcer for the basketball team, which ends up giving me the baseball and softball job and then the football job. And you never know what one job is going to lead to, especially when you do little things, you make connections along the way. And it's really a lot of it is about who you know, and it helps to know a lot of people, but also being confident in yourself is number one, knowing that you can do the job, knowing the right people that can vouch for you, and just being a good person as well. Because, you rub one person the wrong way, next thing you know, they're telling 5 other people how they once rubbed you the wrong way, or you rubbed them the wrong way, and, down few bridges burned there. So just go the extra mile for people, work hard, get to know a lot of people, and don't be afraid to ask for advice. Don't be afraid to ask for people to listen to your demo reels. One of the biggest things when I was in school is that, we were part of the Bowling Green Radio Sports Organization. It's a student-run organization that does 170 games a year. And one of the things that used to just make me so mad was that kids, freshmen, sophomore, they wouldn't let anyone listen to their tape to get critiqued. They're like, no, it's fine. I'm like, it's not fine. Like, I'm not saying this. It's not like I'm better than you thing. It's like, I send my tapes out still to this day to see, like, what can I do differently? How can I, I still say things all the time. I'm like, that was terribly worded. Like, there's been times on the air where I just I just wince after I say something. I'm like, why did I say that? Or something like that. But there's a lot of, get as many ears on your broadcast as you possibly can, because, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and you don't let anyone catch those mistakes, then you're just going to keep doing them, and you're going to think it's right because it's just your ears. But, and a lot of people are willing to listen to tapes, or not so tapes anymore. They're files on Dropbox, whatever it is. But a lot of people are going to listen to it because I've noticed a lot of people have been there before. There's a lot of NHL broadcasters who, I'm in contact with, talking about, hey, here's a demo reel, just when you get a chance. And they always, because they were once in the shoes of a minor league broadcaster trying to make it, and they know exactly how it is. And there are many people to go out and send your tape to, and just get advice. Just go around and ask for advice, and who knows, that may spawn a connection, and you may have a new networking opportunity. And if someone has a job that opens somewhere, they might think of you. So,
Evan, thank you for offering that advice, and thank you for doing this. I know you're right in the middle of the season. You're on the road. You're in the hotel. You're making moves. You still were able to carve out some time with us.
no,
This is the first time you and I have ever connected. Like, we've never spoken before. Right when we turned on the mics, this is all. I feel like I've known you for years now. Like, this was one of the great parts about this conversation. I feel like this is something that's going to, hopefully, for Capital Region sports fans, we're going to see more of you in the future and hear more of your calls and everything else, man. So thank you for doing this. Very appreciated. And let's stay in touch for the future.
Absolutely, man. Again, thank you for having me. This is a blast. And yeah, we're in the road. We're on the road right now. We're in Trois-Rivières, Quebec. So I'm not even in the United States right now. We're in the hotel. We have a game tonight. But yeah, it's nice to relax for a little bit and sit down and kind of talk shop, which is something I don't get to do a lot, because a lot of people don't really understand the sportscasting thing. And I have one more piece of advice, actually, for other people, people who want to get into sports broadcasting. I learned very quickly my first year in Adirondack that broadcasting is a very, very small part of my job. Now I'm the director of communications and broadcasting for the Thunder. So pretty much for me, I'm doing media, I'm doing press releases, I'm doing a lot of the stats stuff, I'm doing game notes, I'm doing community appearances, I'm doing social media, I'm doing this and that and that. And then pretty much at the end of my workday, my reward is that I get to call a hockey game. And that's kind of the deal in minor leagues. You have to wear many hats to do what you love to do. And I've learned to love every bit of my job. Although there are long days and whatnot, but there are times where it's tough. But at the end of the day, I'm not working 9 to 5 for the most part. I'm broadcasting hockey for a living, and I'm working in sports, and every day is different, which is a lot of fun. But for people who want to get into minor league sports, know that you're going to have a lot of work to do, but embrace it, because you could also not be doing that. You could also be doing something else and not following your dreams and not broadcasting games. So whatever gives you that opportunity to, at the end of the day, get on the microphone, do it. And who knows, there's a lot of guys in the ECHL who are broadcasters who end up falling in love with the PR side of things, and they have a whole nother, avenue, and you become more versatile as an employee. So, I've grown a lot this is my 4th season with the Thunder, 5th year working for the Thunder. I've grown a lot, as a person, as a worker. I found, I started my first job with Adirondack when I got hired. I was an account executive and the broadcaster. So I sold tickets during the day, and then I broadcast games at night. But now I've worked that into communications director, which is something I really wanted to do, because I knew a lot of the jobs at different levels would have those tasks. So, don't say no to opportunities. And just, do what's asked of you, and work hard, and you get rewarded. So again, at the end of a long work week for me, I get to call hockey games. It's a small part of my job. It's what I want to do in my life, and whatever I get a chance to do it, I just take advantage of it.
I'm glad you shared that, because so many people will get that start in the minor league system, whether it's hockey, baseball, whatever it might be. And there's going to be days where they're long and tough and discouraging, but like you just shared there, they can pay off, and it's great for the future. And as long as you know what you're getting into and you enjoy what you're doing, it's going to be great for whether you're in college or just out of college. It's all good stuff, man. You are in Quebec. I think I should say au revoir for you until next time, my friend. Glad we connected.
The
opposite. Is that French? Is that Italian?
I think that's German, isn't it?
I don't know. Right.
I tried the Duolingo thing for like a few months. I had a good streak going, and then I just stopped doing it. I should get back on it. I know they have a Google Translate app that's really cool now, that you can like take a photo of stuff on the wall and it translates it on the wall. It's crazy. Technology is wild. It's helping you.
I want someone to do this whole transcript of this interview in French and just play it back on a different channel at some point. Go back.
With like voices that don't match ours. That'd be great.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Looking forward to the future.
Absolutely.